Hey, what's going on? It is Greg O'Gallagher with the Road to Rip podcast, sitting here face to face with Tom Ness.
What's up, man? How you
No,
doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Do you see my new lifting shirt?
I do. It's incredibly hardcore. It's a
Very.
it's a Mickey shirt.
I have a Mickey Mouse T-shirt. It really helps me set those PRs in the gym, so to speak.
I like how in this scenario though I one up you with Captain America.
Captain America. Wow. Did you plan that out?
I didn't, but I just show up. You know, I'm
Just
prepared.
you just showed up. Yeah. I come in here with my Mickey Mouse shirt. And yeah, you totally one up me.
But you bench more than I do, so it's so.
Well, you know what? All those YouTube videos are all fake plates, so I don't even
Oh,
work out. Yeah, it's all digitally enhanced.
your abs are photoshopped. I get
They're
it. I
all,
knew.
all they're all photoshopped. Yeah.
I
Um,
suspected.
but now, this is actually all joking aside, this is actually a very, very important podcast that I really want to put out because I was talking to a friend recently. I'm not going to name any names, who was dealing with binge eating. And what people don't realize is, well, actually, what I think, well, what people don't realize is that people that deal with this binge eating thing, first of all, they don't realize how common it is. And people that haven't been there, haven't been in their shoes, don't realize how um, draining it is. I mean, sometimes people like literally uh, end up eating until they are crying, like they're in tears because they feel so bad.
Hmm.
And at the root of it, at the root of this binging thing, which we'll define in a second, is really it's really highly emotional. Um, but literally, it's if you're doing a few things, it's almost impossible to avoid. And we'll discuss exactly why that is. So people that have like, look, I've had periods of time where I was binging heavily, literally to the point where I felt like I wanted to throw up. But fortunately, I'm not capable of making myself throw up. That never happens. This was a few years ago. But it can be very destructive. Yeah. Well, actually, I didn't want to throw up because I felt like I wanted to throw up because I literally felt like my stomach was gonna pop. I was like, okay, like I was like, all right, like this is probably gonna set me back a while, but I'm I literally felt my stomach was gonna explode. Yeah. No, I
Yeah, it's a serious thing though, and I mean that's what a lot of people don't get. I mean, the people that do suffer from binge eating, I mean, it's an incredibly serious and incredibly emotional thing for those people. For I mean, for a variety of reasons, but there are, so understanding where the problem comes from will help you also understand like how you can fix the problem, and so that's what we want to get into in this episode, and just shed some light on what the problems are and give you practical strategies that you can use to overcome binge eating. So it doesn't have to be a problem. It doesn't have to be draining, and it's not something that you have to suffer from.
right, and I think there's a lack of understanding with binge
Hmm.
eating because someone could be in this scenario where they're at a healthy weight, okay? Maybe they want to be really lean or really slim or really skinny or really ripped, but more or less they're at a healthy weight. They're not overweight, they're not underweight, and maybe they already look great, they look good. They could go to someone. It could even be a doctor, and they could be like in tears, being like, "I have this binge eating issue. I just can't stop eating, and I feel horrible." And then the doctor might look at them and be like, "You have nothing to worry about. This isn't a
Hmm.
problem. This is in your head. You're at a healthy weight. Go home." And that's like the worst thing you can tell them because it's a serious issue and it takes a huge toll on their life. And it's not something just to kind of like, snub away.
Hmm. So let's actually like define what binge eating actually is then. So because it ranges, obviously there's a big range. I mean, it affects people in different ways. But just generally speaking, like what is binge eating?
Well, I mean, there's different ways to define it. You might, let's say you have a college kid, okay, and maybe he doesn't really care at all about how he looks, what he puts in his mouth. Well, he might go out with some friends, go to a restaurant, order like two entrees, appetizers, and then go home and play video games and eat like chips or ice cream while he plays video games. He might consume a lot of calories,
Hmm.
but in the context of this episode, that's not binge eating, because essentially he's just eating because he he's just almost entertaining himself. it's almost like he's reveling in the food. So he's actually like fully enjoying it. There's no guilt there. He's not like eating to the point where he feels horrible about his confidence or his self-image. He's just like one of those guys that like will eat whatever he wants. Maybe he puts on weight, maybe he doesn't. He just doesn't care. But more like he ate more than he needed. But that's in essence not the binge eating issue that we're solving today. Because anyone knows someone like that. Like literally, maybe it's a young 22-year-old male that literally goes out, eats a ton of food, and he essentially just enjoys it, revels in it, and it's not a big deal. But the way that in this episode, what the binge eating we're addressing is really a lot more emotional, a lot more psychological, and it's when it's heavily fueled by guilt. You know you shouldn't keep eating, but you can't stop. And so that's the big differentiator. In the first example, the person literally, he's fine. He doesn't really matter to him. Maybe he'll eat. There's nothing wrong with him eating. But the binging, like kind of what we're addressing here is like literally, I shouldn't be doing this. Why am I doing this? I can't stop eating. I hate myself. This is not okay. I don't deserve anything. That's what we're addressing. You with me, Tom? Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, it does. So it's I guess it's just the like knowing that you should stop and you can't. So versus, because I have a lot of friends. I go out with friends that have, I mean, they get, an appetizer, like a full like meal and everything, and then they go out for dessert afterwards, and it's fine because they don't really care. But then there are another group of people, well, individual people, I should say, that I know that have suffered from this, where it's like it's almost like a responsive thing. Like they have to eat, and they can't stop. There comes a definite time where like they're full, so they're not even eating, for the satisfaction of it anymore. But they just can't turn it off, and that produces all the emotional turmoil and guilt and everything afterwards. So yeah, it's just like the consciousness of the actual eating itself, I guess.
Yeah, no, that is absolutely a massive shift because if you look at yourself, if you were to like forget about how you look, forget that food even has an influence on your body type,
Hmm.
and like let's say you just no longer cared about getting to your goal at all, no longer cared about being fit, literally didn't mean anything to you, and you were to go out with your friends and get some food, maybe you'd order the stuff on the menu you'd want, you eat, but like literally you probably stop eating at a reasonable time. Even if you had no bearing about how you looked. But now, let's say you're someone that's literally been spending months to try and get really, really slim, really, really lean, really, really defined. It doesn't matter if you're a guy or girl; it's the same. Let's say you've been spending months to get into a really lean state, and this is so important to you. In fact, the mental dialogue in your head day to day is like, I need this. Like I want to be lean. Like I am not enough right now. I need to get to that goal to be fulfilled, to be complete. And so now all of a sudden you have this intense amount of pressure on yourself. It's for you to feel like you're enough, whole, complete, fulfilled. You have to be at that goal. And this is something that everyone tells themselves. Almost everyone that wants to lose weight, be fit, or maybe it's even build muscle, what happens is, in essence, as we set goals for ourselves, a lot of time we tie our self-image to that goal. So someone that wants to make $1 million, they're they don't really feel complete per chance until they get to that goal. That's why someone that literally people like go through, people always want more and more and more.
Hmm.
Someone that the first set out to buy like the nice condo, now they want something else, or they want like the fast car, they want a faster car, they want a bigger house, they want more money. It's like it never
Yeah.
ends. And but I kind of digressed there a little bit. But the point there is that when you're kind of chasing the self-image with your goal, it almost works against you in so many ways. But then what happens is now you have all this intense pressure, okay? Because now you're going out, maybe you're trying to stick to your diet, and you have so much pressure riding on this that if you screw up one bit, let's say you end up like you just can't take it anymore. You're hungry, you're having cravings, you're trying to diet too fast, so it's not that enjoyable, and all of a sudden your willpower levels are low. And willpower, you have to understand, is a resource. You only have so much of it. It's not infinite. and then you end up having some cake. And now, if you just, let's say you're just a normal person that didn't really care about getting to their goal or what have you, they had some cake, they wouldn't think anything of it. They're like, oh, I had some cake, cool. Yeah, cake, cool, awesome. But no, not this person. This person, they had cake. They're like eating that cake. They're like, I screwed up like I destroyed my goal. I ruined this. I'm never gonna lose weight. I'm never gonna be happy. How did like my life is over. I am worthless. And now they eat that cake, and it's like self-loathing. So instead of reveling in the cake, they're self-loathing in it, and that just makes them want to mess up more. What the hell? I already messed up my diet. Now I might as well order 2 more things on the menu. Now I might as well go to like the 7-Eleven or the store, buy some ice cream, go home, and like just eat myself silly. Um, and so there's 2 huge differences. And so many times when people are so obsessed with getting to a goal, they want it really fast. They gravitate to really low-calorie diets. They're doing tons of cardio. And stuff like low-calorie diets and lots of cardio will set you up for a huge appetite. It will, because this issue is psychological in one way, and it's also physiological. So if you're depriving yourself too much, if you're not getting in enough calories, you're in too big of a deficit, you're exercising too much, that's only going to drive you into binge eating. Because if you can imagine, okay, in that instance, the diet doesn't match yourself, nor does it match the exercise. So if you're eating too little, literally you're hungry all the time, now you're exercising a ton, your body is not getting much food. You're in this massive caloric deficit, and your body's like, I want food, I want food, I want food. That's what we're wired for. And what happens in that instant is that your leptin levels come down, which slows down your metabolism, it brings up your cravings, and so you're setting yourself up for a massive binge eat. So if you have, so like the point I'm trying to make is, if you've been binge eating, this is not your fault. Anyone in your shoes is probably, this is going to happen to them more or less. Look, I've done it, okay, a lot. A few years ago, I would try and diet way too strict, very low calories, very low carbs, and eventually, like probably every 4 days, I would be like, I can't take it anymore. I'm gonna eat those carbs. And then most people, if they had some carbs, would be like, cool, yay, carbs is fun. But me, or anyone in my shoes, or these shoes, your shoes, are gonna be like, great, I blew my diet, it's over. All those 4 days are gone now. I'm gonna just keep eating. And so there's that. That's what's going on, is that psychological component, but also the fact that because you've been depriving yourself for so long, your body's in this constant state of hunger, and you like kind of burning through all this willpower to adhere to a super strict diet, and you've been like diminishing your leptin levels, so you're in this perfect storm to keep eating. You're just pulling yourself in the opposite. You're just throwing yourself in the opposite direction.
Mm-hmm. So then, with that said, do you want to talk about steps that someone can actually take to eliminate binge eating?
Yeah, actually, you know what? I could flesh this part out a tiny bit more,
Mm-hmm.
because I mentioned how, like, literally, if you're doing extreme low-calorie diets and lots of exercise, the diet doesn't match the exercise, and it's just the diet's too strict. It's gonna push you
Which
to extreme.
which is really funny, actually, because most people, I mean, so many of my friends actually that have like never listened to anything Kinobody related, or that just haven't actually done digging into the research themselves. They think that, all right, so I want to lose weight. First thing I got to do is like eat salads and drink water and exercise, like do 3 hours of cardio a day, and that's it. And that's what they do, and that's what they think is going to help them get to their end goal. So obviously that's like a whole other episode, but it perfectly sets you up for for cheating, for binge eating, and for just like psychological and emotional distress.
Yeah, yeah, beautifully put. Yeah, we can talk about the strategies, because this kind of ties into each other. Beautiful. We'll talk about the strategies too. How do you? Let's say you've been binge eating. Maybe it's been happening for a few years, a couple, like just recently, and it's something that you do maybe once a week, and maybe every day, maybe every month. But it's something that's affecting you negatively. And really, the big problem that I have with binge eating is that literally there's nothing. It gives nothing for you, because I'm a huge fan of ice cream. I love ice cream. Big ice cream fan. In fact, I'm eating ice cream right now. No, I'm not, but I would be if it was like time. I'd be probably eating some ice cream. I had amazing. Anyways, the point is that you don't enjoy it. if you're in a binge eating um, session, you don't enjoy the food you're eating. I mean, temporarily you're like, yeah, this is good, but at the same time you're like, I hate myself. Why do I keep doing this? I screwed up, and sometimes you even bring yourself to tears. This happens to a lot of people, people I know. Literally, they feel so horrible doing this. They know they shouldn't. They're so upset. They so badly want to get to that goal, and they've screwed up, and they can't stop. Like literally, they've lost control. It's gone. They just
Hmm.
keep eating, and they're crying because they're so devastated because of it.
Hmm.
So this
Well,
is
because all they can see is the lack of, the reversing of the progress that they're making as well.
yeah.
So it's just like they're literally seeing like the countless hours that they're going to have to spend on like on a treadmill to try to burn off everything that they're eating, even though
And
that's not
this is, but this
the
is
right way to do it.
Tom, I'm really glad you brought that up because this exacerbates the problem. This is what kept my binge eating in place for a while because when I would binge eat, I'd go way into the extreme. I literally, like now I can go out and I can eat food and enjoy it, and maybe I'll eat a little bit too much, but it doesn't really make a difference. Before, I would feel bad about it. I wouldn't like. I'd always try to deprive myself from stuff, so when I ate it, I couldn't stop. I just keep eating, keep eating, keep eating, and then all of a sudden I'm like, ugh, just like you feel gross, like you don't even like you regret it. You just feel
You feel bloated. Yeah.
confidence is low. You don't want to go out at night. But here's the problem. But then this is what happens. Like, okay, well now I have to make up for this. I screwed up so badly.
Yeah.
So tomorrow I'm not gonna, I'm gonna fast for 24 hours. I'm gonna eat like one small, like low carb, like some one small, like one salad with a couple chicken breasts, and then the next day I'm gonna go like low carb, and I'm gonna like, and then like these 2 days I'm gonna do like an hour and a half of cardio. And so here's the problem is that when people binge eat and they screw up, they try and overcompensate. So they try and
Hmm.
be very, very strict for the next day, and then really strict for the day after, and then still strict, strict, strict. And so what happens? It's a vicious cycle because the very what they were doing that was bringing them into a state of binge eating, they're going back to it again. It's like this thing of the cycle of insanity, doing the
Hmm.
same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So if you keep trying to put your pedal to the metal, eat very, very little, very low calories, exercise all the time, and then that only brings you to binge eating maybe it's every 2 days, maybe it's every day, maybe it's every 4 days, or every week. Well, that's a problem with the diet. That's the problem. You're going too extreme. Your body can't take it. It's just you're depriving yourself too much. Of course you're going to binge. Of course. And so when
Hmm.
the main thing is when people take a moderate approach. Okay, so you know what? For a second, is here's what people that binge eat usually they've spun their wheels for a long time, and sometimes they don't look any better. Sometimes they look worse. So it's like, hey, look, you've already put in all this strain. You've been, oscillating between periods of like depriving yourself, killing yourself, starving, overtraining, and periods of eating yourself till you're sick and you hate yourself and you're on the verge of tears. That's no way to
Hmm.
live. And worst of all this anguish, and you're in the same place you were, a year ago. What's going on here? If we can cut away the extremes, you can finally make forward progress and enjoy it. So instead of depriving yourself, doing 2 hours of cardio a day, trying to eat like a bird, let's try and eat moderately. Let's eat just enough to like lose a little bit of fat each week. And then you'll be like,
Hmm.
wow, this is enjoyable. I can do this. I don't feel deprived. This is satisfying. I feel this is rewarding. And so now it's like you're enjoying the process, but you're enjoying the process on one level, not both levels, which is what we'll address soon. But now you no longer have that huge drive to pull you into binge eating. It happens maybe every day or every 4 days. Um, and so that is really huge. Once you grab that, and once you cut out that extreme, so you start to
Hmm.
diet moderately, sensibly. You don't give yourself, you don't say, I can never have this again. You're allowed to work stuff into your diet as long as just eat moderately, maintain a small deficit. This is stuff that I talk about more in my courses at kinobody.com. Um, but that's really a huge approach. Is forget about going low carbs, forget about going low fat. Just eat a moderate deficit and get a balanced amount of proteins, fats, and carbs. Because whenever you go on extreme, whenever you go really low in protein, really really low in fat, really really low in carbs, or really really low in calories, that's what gravitates you to create those cravings or that hunger. So when you get rid of that, then you no longer have the huge binging sessions because your body isn't deprived anymore. You no longer repel and eat tons of food. So like
Hmm.
the best defense against binge eating is to be smart, to be educated, because so many diet books are absolute crap. They're temporary. They're about getting results really really fast, no matter what it takes, no matter how much pain it takes, and that usually burns out quickly. And then people just end up binge eating. They go back on the diet and they binge eat. It's just a yo-yo cycle.
Hmm.
And that's so I mean that's a huge thing is take the moderate approach. And you know why? This is funny because actually a family friend of mine was giving me business advice to myself and funny enough Chris Walker because we had some plans to do stuff and he said take the slow road because it's faster. And this applies beautifully to fitness.
It
When pe-
does.
yeah, when people are obsessed with getting to their goal quickly, they either burn out or they go through huge just huge periods of extreme like trying like extreme dieting, extreme working out, and then they just go right back, and then they go. That's so it's like they spin their wheels forever and ever.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's here's the thing though. So I think um, the underlying issue is either following a diet or readjusting your lifestyle to support what your goals are. Because that's, I mean, that's really the main problem with a lot of the books out there is it's just a lot of them are complete crap because it's like a definite period of time where it's like either it's like a crash diet, man. Like you crash diet for 2 or 3 months on end, and then after that, and you only do that to get to your goal, but because it's not set up in a way that's conducive to following it for a long-term approach, when you finally like reach your goal and if it's not sustainable beyond that particular time frame, then obviously you're probably going to rebound after you go off of the quote unquote diet. So either that or trying to follow something that's not sustainable so that even if you do crash diet your way down to a lower body fat or you lose weight in a really rapid period of time, if you don't do it in a way that's sustainable after you use that approach, then you're going to rebound from it. And that's where a lot of people get into these yo-yo dieting cycles. And
Right.
so
Yeah. Yeah.
mhm.
Sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, so that's like what's really important is to set things up in like just in a in a like a moderate way. So instead of trying to do any these crash dieting approaches, allowing yourself the time to diet down to to have like a just like a minor deficit, for example, and actually take a more gradual approach because, as Chris said, the slower road is the faster way, or whatever is phrased. It was really good.
There's a family friend of mine in LA who runs a pretty prestigious studio there that makes movies. And he was giving that advice to Chris and I. But yeah, that's exactly right. And so you keep saying moderate, moderate, moderate. Well, here's what you gotta. Here's this is half the binge eating equation. Okay, we're gonna flesh out the other half, but this is half. What's the most enjoyable way to eat and eat to get to your goal? So, um, like, what's the most enjoyable way that every day you can be like, like be, this is not gonna be stressful. It's gonna be satisfying. It's gonna actually bring you more that it's gonna take from you. Like, what's the most enjoyable way to lose fat? And that's stuff I address all the time at Kinobody. I teach people how to literally, like, this is stuff, Tom, like you've seen my emails that I get every day from people who be like, Greg Gallagher, like, I just started your diet. I am to lose fat, and I'm like stuffed. Like, are you sure this is gonna work? Like, I am eating so much food, so many carbs. I can't possibly see how this is gonna get me lean. And then, granted, I like 2 weeks later, like, I messaged them back, obviously, but 2 weeks later, like, yeah, you're right. This is crazy. I don't know how. Like, why isn't everyone doing this? Because I came from that frame. I was like years ago I was stuck in the dogma. I was like trying to follow the rules, but then I was like, the only thing you have to do is ask yourself, what's the most enjoyable way to make this happen? And when you know what physiologically it takes to lose fat, which is actually quite simple, then you can actually forget about all the rules and create your own. How do I
Mhm.
make this enjoyable? And then when you come from that frame of mind, it is so much better. And that's like half the equation. But there's still a lot more going on with binge eating because, um, that's the first step. So let's say that finally, okay, you're not trying to eat 1,000 calories a day. Maybe you're eating to lose about a pound of fat a week, and you're not going zero carbs. You're not going zero fat. You're eating balanced meals. And we got a cookbook coming out soon with some amazing balanced meals that are so satisfying, so satiating, which is what you should be focusing on with food. Forget about good food, bad food, glycemic index. Focus on, is this food filling and satisfying?
Yeah,
Um, and that's why I love potatoes. Potatoes are incredibly satisfying and filling. Um,
they
okay,
are.
so let's say you've done that. Okay, so now your diet, you're taking it slower. You're eating foods you enjoy. You're just focusing on losing fat like a bit slower. Well, now there's still stuff we have to address, and one of which is if you've been someone that's like literally, well, I mean, the common phenomenon I see with most people that are trying to get lean, trying to diet, um, and and such is that they aren't really happy with where they are right now. Okay, so Tom, let's use you as an example.
Hmm.
Let's say that you have 20 pounds of extra fat that I just magically added onto you. Um, and like, how does that make you feel?
Why I would immediately feel like I need to start dieting.
Yeah, yeah, you need to
I mean,
start.
like I would feel unhappy, and I would well, if I had an extra 20 pounds on me right now, I'd be like, ugh. I'd feel disgusted. I would feel like I have to immediately start a cutting plan.
Okay, okay. Now, you feel that 20 pounds on you?
I
Because
do.
just imagine it, just for the
Yeah,
sake
I
of
got it. Oh no, no, I'm there. I'm there.
visually, you can picture that extra 20 pounds. You know what it looks like. You can imagine what your chest and your stomach looks like. Okay.
I don't want to be there, but I am. All
Okay.
right.
It doesn't feel good.
No, not at all.
Okay. There's like this self-consciousness there, right?
Well, yeah. Then especially if you gain weight, it's not like you're getting a new wardrobe that supports your new physique, even though it's the opposite direction of what you want. So your clothes are going to fit tighter. You're going to have to. You'll feel like you'll have to like suck in all the time or flex. Otherwise, you'll have like belly and
Yeah.
yeah,
But but
that's
but now, okay. Now you have those 20 pounds on, but now I'm adding 100 pounds. So now you're 100 pounds, 100 extra pounds of fat. Okay.
hmm
Now, if you had 100 extra pounds of fat, wouldn't you die to just have that extra 20 pounds? You see what I'm saying?
yeah, it's
Like,
relative.
it's relative. So I mean, like, I mean, like, so literally, people. What happens with people is that literally, maybe they're even 12% body fat, or maybe they're 30%, and they just are like just going crazy with where they're at. They're not happy. They have to be that goal like right now, right now, right now, and they're just getting torn apart. And what they don't realize is that look, this is all you're creating all this stress in your own minds, because someone literally could have been 50 pounds overweight, could have lost 50 pounds, could be right where you're at and be thrilled. They
hmm
could finally feel like, wow, like look, this is amazing. But then the other point is like literally, we could be sitting here, you could have 100 pounds of fat on you, we could be talking, but in this moment, as we're talking, like what does it matter? Friends are friends. We're just like enjoying our time, we're talking. So I mean, like literally, what happens is people get too tied to. So the first step is people need to learn how to accept themselves, because when they haven't accept themselves, that's going to propel them into binge eating. Because binge eating is really a reflection of a lack of self acceptance in two ways. You haven't like a lot of ways you haven't accepted where you are, like you feel bad about where you are. So now like that that tension, that structural tension between not stress essentially, because stress from dieting and stress in life is being here but wanting to be somewhere in the future. Okay, as you can imagine, that
hmm
time gap that you create, that mental time gap you create, is what creates the stress. So imagine you're stuck in traffic, okay, and you're just like you have to go to an appointment, okay, and so like that's gonna stress you the hell out because you're stuck in traffic but you want to be over there. And so that's something that people bring with themselves 24 fucking 7. 24/7. They're unhappy with where they are right now. They want to be at their goal like right this instance. They want to
hmm
be slim fit like right now. That's how the diet industry works. It's all quick pills, quick fast results. They're trying to give them like that instant solution, and it doesn't fucking work. Everyone knows it. They
hmm
spun their wheels time and time again. They bought that. They probably bought countless diet books. They've done it again and again and again. It never fucking works because they sell you what you want, not what actually works.
hmm
And that's the
It's like
huge
Dr.
problem.
Oz, man. Every single episode, it's just hitting all these psychological triggers that make people like, I mean, that literally fund or like fuel like industries to explode, like Garcinia Cambogia and all that crap. I mean, it's all like, I mean, granted, there might be some isolated study that it helps some like, you know, enormously obese person lose X per, you know, fat pounds or whatever, but you know, it's like they sell you what you want, not what works. And that's, it's unfortunate because it causes so many misperceptions and misconceptions in the diet industry.
And why do they sell you what you want? Because we're kind of we've kind of like our vision is completely warped.
Hmm.
We're like in essence, especially in today's society, this is kind of inevitable in so many ways. Is that we're just so tied to our self-image. How the hell do people perceive us? It's all
Right.
about that. If that's how media, marketing, advertising, it's all designed is to boost your self-image. When you spend $200 on a dress shirt, or $3 grand on maybe $5 grand on a watch, it's a status symbol. It's a way to enhance your self-image. That's why they have celebrities endorse perfume, or clothes, or shampoo, whatever it is. It's like you're not
Hmm.
buying the product, you're buying the enhanced self-image of the product. And so that
Hmm.
this is all tied right back to binge eating, because the fundamental problem on the deepest core level, if you like pull everything away, okay, strip everything away at the deepest core level, what is there? And it's a lack of acceptance. It's not being happy with where you are right now. And so that that lack of acceptance is what propels you to do those extreme diets, to do the extreme exercise protocol. It propels you that finally you're so freaking stressed because you're not happy where you are, you want to be there, and you're not there, and so you're so deeply stressed, you can't take it. You know what? Might as well just eat some food. And you just kind of, and then during that time, you just feel guilty. You're like, yeah, I messed up my goal. And so this is like really why people get stressed from fitness, is because of that time gap, because of that lack of self-acceptance. And you know what? Not only when someone's binging do they not accept themselves, but they also don't accept the fact that they've binged. So let's pretend right now, Tom, you're the example of someone that's binging. You have that extra 20 pounds, or maybe extra 50 pounds,
Hmm.
doesn't matter. Or maybe you're 10 pounds less than you are right now, and you want to lose another 10 pounds. It's all relative. But let's say you're in this state where, you know what, you tried to eat strict today. You ended up going into the freezer. You gave yourself a bowl of ice cream. Maybe it was 500 calories. Now you're 500 calories over your diet. And guess what? The reason that you're going to go and make another bowl, the reason you go into the cupboard and get some cookies or make some cheese nachos, is because you haven't accepted the fact that you ate that extra 500 calories. If you were to be like, okay, you know what? You finish that ice cream, because at the end of the day, we're all fucking human. We're all human. We only have so much willpower. We're not a machine. You can't like literally, be like, okay, I'm just like, you can't like be from a separate entity, tell yourself exactly what to do and expect to follow it precisely. We're emotionally driven, and so if you were to have that 500 calories of ice cream and literally be like, um, you know what? I've been really good these past few days. Okay, I'm only human. I messed up, but it's okay. I accept the fact that I messed up. This is a learning process. I don't expect myself to be perfect. I'm just trying to improve, and I'm not even just obsessed with improving on the scale. I'm just trying to improve the process, the gears in place. So if I get better at just kind of sticking to my exercise plan, at hitting my macros, or just being more moderate with my diet, then that's great progress. So I mean, if you can just pull back and be like, I accept this. I don't have to be perfect. Okay, I'm only human. I'm gonna try and do my best. And you know what? I can't change it. The ice cream, I already ate it, so I might as well fucking enjoy it. And that ice cream
Hmm.
was great. Now there's tomorrow. We can always do tomorrow. And so now you ate the 500 calories. You just went over by 500 calories. It's not a big deal. You'd have to do that 7 freaking times for that to be a pound of fat. So it's not a big deal. It's only a big deal when you're like, I don't accept this. I screwed up my diet. I'm a horrible fucking person. Everything is gone. Now I feel like crap. Now give me some more food because I feel awful. That's when it's a problem, because that 500 calories turns into 3,000 calories, and that's a pound of fat on your body in one day. And then that might take you a week to get off if you do it moderately, Or if you don't do it moderately, maybe you're gonna try and get it off in 2 freaking days, and then you're
Hmm.
gonna be binging again, and now you're back to square one. So this
Right.
is what's happening is you need to be able to accept yourself where you are because look, just imagine you were 50 pounds heavier, okay, and then you lost those 50 pounds. You're like, hell yeah, I look great. This is cool. I mean, it's all subjective. Or I mean, you could just be out with your friends, and for a second, let's take away, let's just take away the idea that we have to let's just forget about let's forget about what people think of us. Let's forget about how we think of each other. Let's just kind of be here in this moment and enjoy it. And then for a second, it doesn't matter, the at a much more, profound level, the physical, the stuff inside, the stuff in your life, the way your body looks, is
Hmm.
essentially a manifestation of your internal reality. And so if you have a very shaky internal reality that projects the idea that you're not good enough and this and that, it's going to manifest. Um, and I guess that's one of the coolest things that I found out is that literally the way everything like it kind of all just kind of correlates and all that. We're kind of getting esoteric, but um,
Hmm.
if if you, for example, even with relationships, if you inside yourself don't think that you deserve happiness, don't think that someone is going to love you for X, Y, and Z reason, if you don't think you deserve that love, well, that's exactly what's going to happen in your life. You're not going to get it. Okay. And so what people have to realize is I mean, we've covered a lot, but at this binge eating thing, the first step is literally just give yourself permission to be human. Give yourself permission not to be perfect. Just try and accept yourself. And if you can't accept yourself completely, just in this moment, accept what's happening in this moment. Just for a second, try and accept where you are. And it might feel weird. It's like the whole thing. It's like, if you're unhappy and you smile, it actually makes you feel better. Well, even if it means going into the mirror and not even believing it and just saying, I love and accept myself. I am happy with myself. I am okay with where I'm at. I am enough. I am enough. I am enough. Do that for 5 minutes. I guarantee you will feel amazing. You will feel
Hmm.
so good. And you might have to do that every day. But gratitude is a process. And the beauty is, once this takes place, once you're like, okay, because this has happened to me a couple years ago. It's the most beautiful thing. It was when I was no longer obsessed with getting to the goal. I was able to enjoy the process. I didn't have to be 8% body fat with shredded abs to go out with my friends, have drinks, and have a great time. Um, I was able to it. It's because I don't know if Tom you were yeah. So for me it was literally it was I was so tied to that goal and it just kind of destroyed my life. And then when I was really able to be well, wait a second, why can't I just enjoy this without being 6% body fat? And then you make progress to your goal and it's so much better. Um, and yeah, I don't know. Is there anything you want to add?
No, that I think that's a critical part right there. Is that people think that when they achieve a goal, they're going to be able to have or do something that they can't do before they achieve that goal. And it's just like complete bullshit. Like they choose to go to the gym instead of going out on the weekends because they need to get a six pack. And until they identify themselves as being a happier, better, more social, successful person with that six pack than without it. And so they tie their present self to that future end result, and it takes them out of the present and just and projects all their happiness into that future, that destination. And when you do that, you miss out on going out on the weekends. You miss out on great times. You miss out on the socializing, and it just makes a shell of a person that has one core focus to it's like a race to the future. When you finally achieve that, though, you don't have any of the skills built out that you actually that you should have had. It's it's weird, and it's totally esoteric. It's totally a metaphysical concept, but I mean, you talk about it a lot just with a new earth and the power of now and everything.
Yeah, but here's the thing: is look, we know how to lose weight. This is what I was talking with Lyle McDonald, one of the brightest guys in the diet and fitness industry. We know how to lose weight. We've known this for a long time. We understand it. But why can't we get people to do it? Why do we have
Hmm.
this obesity or overweight crisis? You know why? It's because behavioral change. Behavioral change.
Hmm.
That's the problem. It's not. It's like we know how to do it, but we have a hard time making behavioral change. That's why people suck at quitting smoking, suck at quitting drinking if they have alcohol problems. Is it comes down to behavioral change. And why is behavioral change such an issue? Because and it comes back to the whole thing we're talking about with your self-image, being tied to your self-image. Well, you're defined by your self-image. The number one, like the strongest psychological drive, is to maintain homeostasis. So if you tell yourself 1,000 times a day that you're not good enough, that you don't deserve this, you don't deserve to be fit, you don't deserve to have a great girlfriend, a great boyfriend, or whatever, well, that's what you're gonna like. That's exactly what you're gonna be given. Like we said, the internal reality is a reflection of your external state, or your internal state is a reflection of your external reality. Like that's the same principle. So
Hmm.
you're driven by like the thoughts and whatever is circulating in your head, um, and, and so that's usually that's like the big issue. Whereas if you compare like someone like that is an amazing dieter, and I don't know, like this is just a weird analogy, but someone that literally is just a very successful, like they go on a diet, they'll stick to it, like they won't be obsessed, they'll just do the best they can, they'll end up losing the weight, they'll keep it off, versus the person that literally just goes yo 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 yo. They try and they go extreme, and they screw up, and then they tell themselves Monday I'm going to be great again, I'm going to go full out, and they just do the same thing over and over again. I mean, there's massive fundamental differences, and often there's huge fundamental differences. But I mean, I guess we're kind of going around the circle now. But I guess the point there is that you got to be very diligent. You got to see what you're telling yourself, like pull back and see what's going on in your head. And if these thoughts, if you don't think these thoughts are going to help you get to your goal, if these thoughts aren't supporting your goals or supporting where you want to be or supporting your happiness, that's a huge problem. That's going to pull you right back. Um, and even when you go into the mirror in the morning, you're going to get changed. If you look at yourself and you're like, oh my God, I'm not happy with where I am, you're never going to be happy with where you are. You could lose those 20 pounds, those 50 pounds, or whatever it is, and you're still never going to, it's never going to be enough. It will never be enough. You might tell yourself it'll be enough, but it won't. I mean, that's why you have guys that get into, skinny guys that get into working out and muscle building, and they just want to put on more and more muscle, and it's never enough. And then they start taking steroids, they start getting huger, they start getting bigger. Huger is not a word. They start getting bigger. Now like they're just going more and more extreme, and they're never big enough. Sometimes they still feel small, or maybe they feel big, but they still want to be bigger. And then oftentimes, those guys that are insecure that try and have build, and not all these guys that try and put on a lot of muscle are insecure, but
Hmm.
some of them are, and so maybe they'll walk into a room and there might be one guy that's bigger than them, and that will just kill them, kill their confidence, their self-image. So
Hmm.
we can't be tied to this stuff, and yes, we have to look into our mind and see what we're feeding ourselves, and oftentimes that's like the biggest solution to making behavioral change is being able to change those thoughts. And and this is stuff that I work with my clients on because I have them do two drills that helps really, really well. One of which is getting them to listen, practicing the power of now, the audiobook, not reading it, it's not nearly as effective, but listening to it every day, 20 minutes, for a few weeks, listen to it at least 3 times. You like develop a skill set to be able to pull yourself into the moment, to be able to like disidentify from thoughts that aren't serving you and create positive supporting ones. And then within those 2 weeks, like a massive change happens. And finally, all those ties that were holding you back to where you didn't want to be, where you were stuck, are gone. You cut them off, now you're free to move forward. I mean, that's one of the drills I do, which is very effective. But yeah, let's wrap up. I don't know if there's anything else we need to talk about here.
Well, we fleshed it out pretty thoroughly. What binge eating is, what causes it, and there are some pretty practical steps that we gave people for overcoming binge eating. So obviously it's something that it's a real problem. I mean, if you haven't suffered with it, you may not understand the depth of the reality of the situation that people are currently in that do suffer with binge eating. But it's a real thing, and I think that you gave them some really practical tools and in steps to help overcome it.
Yeah, I mean, like just to wrap up, like extreme dieting, extreme exercises is gonna make you binge eat, you know. So
Hmm.
take it slowly, take it moderately. Ask yourself, how can I enjoy the process? Like, what's the most enjoyable way for me to eat to support my goals? And then start to slowly be able to accept yourself. Accept the fact that you are where you are right now. Accept maybe in the last few months you've gained like 10, 20 pounds. Accept that you put that weight on. Accept it because then the process to your goals, instead of it being filled with stress, urgency, and burden, that will be transmuted into joy, ease, and peace, and you just be able
Hmm.
to enjoy that process, and it's a beautiful thing. And then accept those moments that you can't. So when you do screw up, because after all, we're only human, we will screw up. Accept you
Hmm.
screwed up, and then move on. Um,
Yeah, and anticipate that you're going to screw up, because if you think that you're going to start any kind of plan, like any kind of plan period, and not fail and not screw up, I mean that alone is setting yourself up for failure. So realizing that you are human and that there are going to be roadblocks, but you can either let those roadblocks stop you, or help you realign with what your actual goals are and get back on the path.
Yeah, and I don't expect anyone following my courses or doing coaching with me to be perfect 100% of the time. Like I don't. Like I expect like, once in a while they'll eat out, they have no idea what their macros are. But as long as you don't get into that guilty state, usually you're going to be okay. If you just kind of be like,
Mhm.
"Oh, well, you know what? I'm going out with friends with pizza. I'm obviously not going to stick to my diet." But oh well, you know what? This is like I'm gonna enjoy myself. Well, you can usually eat that pizza and you'll be okay. But if you're like, well, I blew my diet, then it's a whole other story. And yeah,
Mhm.
I like what you said, Tom, about planning for it. For me, for example, um, I like if I do like, and here's what's important is don't label foods as good or bad. So if you tell yourself your like cookies are horrible for you, it's gonna make you fat. That's a problem because if you are able to eat foods that you enjoy, maybe they're cookies or treats or sweets or desserts or greasy, fatty food, well, if you can work those into your numbers, if you can work those into moderation, they won't make you fat. So if, for example, you burn 2,500 calories per day and you're eating 2,000 and 300 calories was from like chocolate or cookies, well, you're still in that deficit. You're still going to burn plenty of fat. And so that's like the new shift that's happening to like flexible dieting that I've been talking about for a while now. But yeah, all great things to talk about. And for me, at least, I do like to eat foods that I really enjoy. And so, yeah, some nights I'll have frozen yogurt ice cream. Sometimes I'll have cheese quesadillas. But it's a good idea to have foods that if you are going to screw up, that you at least screw up with foods that satisfy you very, very well.
Mhm.
It's kind of like weird to think about. But like, let's say, you are like depriving yourself, you're hungry, which shouldn't be an issue if you're dieting properly. But sometimes people will literally they'll binge eat on pretzels, and they don't even like pretzels that much. But they eat like 1,000 calories of pretzels. It's like, what's the point?
Right.
Fine.
Unless it's pretzel rolls,
Yeah.
which are delicious.
Well, I mean, some people love pretzels, but like for me, I would take 1,000 things over pretzels. So I mean, here's the thing: is
Yeah.
that if you're gonna go out and eat something, and you're not gonna be perfect on your diet, or you're gonna have something at night, and you're not you're just gonna like kind of like give yourself a psychological release. A free meal is a better way of looking at it than a cheat meal. A free meal, maybe you do a couple a week. Well, get the food that you really, really, really want, because then you'll be far more satisfied. So what
Hmm.
happens is like, let's say Tom, or the listener, let's say the listener, you really wanted to have pancakes with some syrup and some chocolate chips. But instead of having pancakes, you wanted to be a bit healthier, and so you had like second best choice. And maybe second best choice was what's another example?
In the pancake vein, like a waffle, or
Yeah, I don't
are you
know.
talking about?
Maybe you instead of have like you had like frozen Eggos, or maybe you had like some I don't know some other food. Maybe you had like toast with like jam. So instead of having like pancakes, you have toast with jam, and so but you really want to satisfy that, and because you aren't having the thing you really want, you end up like eating more of it because it doesn't do the trick. It's like oh,
Yeah.
so like yeah. So if you want to have ice cream and you don't have ice cream, so you have like pretzels and you eat
Yogurt.
chips and you eat chips, but they're not doing the trick. They're not like the crave. They're not what you want. So you just eat more because you're trying to get satisfied, but it's not working. Don't do that. Eat what you really want to eat. So
Yeah.
so
It's
yeah,
good stuff, man.
that's really
That's a
important.
hack. That's a good hack right there.
Eat what you want to eat, and I mean, there's also like what we talked about. There's also plenty of research that supports this. I mean, they've had studies of where people would literally they would have two groups of people. They both give them each a sugar donut. One group they were like, "What are you doing? Like like after they ate the sugar donut, they'd be like, you just ate a sugar donut. Like this is bad for you. Why are you doing this? Like most people like no one like who else eats sugar donuts at like 11 o'clock in the morning. Like this is like you should feel really guilty. This isn't okay." And then the other group, they'd be like, "Oh, like yeah, it's a sugar. It's not a big deal. It's not that bad. Like you're only human. Like enjoy it. It's not a big
Hmm.
deal." And then both groups, they took them to an all-you-can-eat buffet, and they tracked to see how much they'd eat. The group that felt guilty, they ate far more than the group that was like had more positive affirmations.
That's a
So
really interesting study.
yeah, and so what the beauty of this is that um, it's a perfect metaphor and a perfect illustration for what you do to yourself. So when you screw up your diet and you eat that, sugar donut or that cookie, okay, there might not be someone there being like, what are you doing? This is horrible for you. But you're doing it to yourself, which is almost even worse, right?
Hmm.
Are you with me, Tom?
Yeah,
So
my audio just cut out for a minute, but
okay, yeah. So I mean, you're doing it to yourself, and so then when you eat that sugar donut, and now you've told yourself that you're no good. That how could you do this? You screwed up. No one else screws up. This is like what's wrong with you? Well, then you're gonna make yourself eat way more. And so
yeah.
don't do that. Okay, if you screwed up, accept that you screwed up, and it's okay. And something that Dick Talent said on my podcast, which I love, was that sometimes the biggest wins are preventing huge losses. So a
Hmm.
lot of people they can be strict for a day or two, or, a few days. That's no problem. But when they want to go out with their friends and eat something off the menu, or I mean, eat something that's off their regular diet, they
Hmm.
all inhibitions are all hell breaks loose and they just go crazy. But if you can be able to eat something you want and enjoy it and not feel guilty, well, that is going to allow you to make amazing progress to your goal because when you screw up, you don't really screw up. Okay? So
Yeah.
here's if you can like literally if you can have a couple days a week where maybe you don't hit your numbers, maybe you don't eat a really good deficit, but you don't go over, well then it's just a matter of time before you get to your goal. You're gonna get there, and you're gonna be able to enjoy it. But if you're someone that literally goes 2 steps forward, 1 or 2 steps back, it's gonna be like a never-ending process, and it's gonna be not enjoyable. So bam, we're done.
I like
Booyah!
it. Solid.
Oh, yeah, and I guess before we wrap up, we have the on Kinobody. If you go to Kinobody, it's really cool. On the side banner, so Kinobody.com, the top of the side banner, there's it says identifying your physique type to lose fat, gain strength, and build lean muscle. I've been having tons of people ask me, Greg, like what should I focus on? Do I need to lose fat? Do I need to build muscle? Which of your programs is the best one for me? And so I basically have put together a questionnaire to determine exactly where you are and what the process looks like to get to your goal. Whether you need to focus on building muscle first and eating at a surplus, or recomping, or cutting, and all that. I flesh it out. I've recorded several different videos depending on the questions that you answer to
Hmm.
determine what is your best path. So if you guys are listening, you can go over to kinobody.com on the side banner. It's identify your physique type. Very cool stuff. Yeah, thank you.
Definitely. So check it out. And I really hope this episode has helped, people that are suffering from binge eating because, like I said before, it's a real thing and there's practical steps that you can use to overcome it, which is what this episode was all about. So let us know what you thought. I mean, once it's on the blog, obviously you can comment on there. And while you're there, check out that, take that survey. Just click on that little banner on the sidebar because it's really cool and it's really going to help you identify like where you're at with what you have to focus on to get to where you want to be. So check it out.
Yeah, and if you're having trouble with that, like accepting yourself, just picture Owen Wilson. The sparkling eye. You know,
Yeah.
you're a great
I would, I
mind.
would
We have a
I
bond
would picture
together. What? What?
I would picture so many other different people than that. But if you want to
Yeah,
picture Owen Wilson, that's cool.
I'm just kidding. But yeah. Anyways, guys, take care. We are signing off.
All
Bam.
right. Catch you guys later.